Hey, what's happening, guys? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel, and today I want to talk about a topic that's been on my mind for many months, maybe even, honestly, close to a year. But today kind of feels like the good day to do it, because I actually recently saw a video by another fellow YouTuber who I like quite a bit, and he brought up some points that made me realize this topic, I just finally had to get it out of my head and bring it up to you guys. Now, before I jump into this, I do recognize that this is the kind of topic that I think by default might make some people pretty upset, unfortunately, and also based on the title I think I might call this video, I think some people might almost look at it as clickbait, but I promise you, I mean it when I say this. I'm not trying to clickbait, nor am I trying to make anyone mad. I hope you actually listen to the conversation and consider what's being discussed before just immediately jumping to like a defense force position and just being upset or thinking that the title of this video is a lie, when I really don't think that that's going to be what we actually do today. But either way, that's my PSA. You can feel about it how you want to. I just wanted to get that off my chest before I jump into this. And what I'm jumping into is an idea, like I said, I've had for about many months to close to a year, on if there are enough companies bringing out products that are similar enough to what the Nintendo Switch is, that in a weird way, it might be forcing Nintendo away from wanting to continue the hybrid idea. When the Nintendo Switch first came out in 2017, it was awesome. Man, we really didn't understand how much we all wanted something like this in our lives, and we didn't even understand how it could be real and made into an actual product that was good, especially by one of the biggest gaming companies on the planet. But Nintendo are geniuses, and just when you think everything's going really bad sometimes, they can pull an amazing left turn and they just surprise the world and they make something that's great and that's game-changing. And that's what the Switch was. Being able to play true console quality, actual console games of that generation at the time that it released on the go, but also being able to very simply plug it in and make it on your TV or pick it up and play it in your hand within like a second. That was so freaking cool, and it's still cool. I don't play my Switch portably anymore, but as far as what it is and that creation of that hybrid design, it was amazing. And of course, as we all know, in the years since the Switch came out, and also in the years since the Switch became a mega popular, humongous hit, we can't forget that if the Switch wasn't a huge hit, or even if the Switch was just like a moderate hit, that it might have changed the fates of other companies who've chosen to do this. But because the Switch landed with such a huge nuclear explosion of success, we saw companies start to adopt a similar model and say, hey, if Nintendo can make a device that plays games that are essentially as good as something you would play on like a PS4 or PS3 or a 360, an Xbox One, or even some PCs at the time, that you can also just plug into a TV or take off of your TV and just play it either way, we can do the same. There are plenty of other companies who are tech-minded, who have the money and resources to build devices that do just what Nintendo did with the Switch. The Switch wasn't the only device to be able to do what it does. It was just the first one to do it in the way they did it. And yes, it boasts Nintendo first-party games, which is a huge part of the big success. But when we look at the advantage of the console and the idea of the hybrid model, that was something that anyone could have done before Nintendo. Nintendo was just the first who chose to do it, and to do it to that scale with amazing software to back it up. And so now we live in a world where, as I said a few minutes ago, we've seen plenty of companies since the Switch's success began who have now started to bring out their own products that basically do the same thing. Now, I haven't played any of these products, and I have no interest in these products, and it's really because I don't really care about handheld gaming anymore. Like I even just said, I would say about 2 years ago or so, I pretty much stopped playing my Switch portably almost completely. There are the occasional instances, and sometimes when it's summer and I've got, the daylight lasts until 10 o'clock and I can go out to my back patio with a beer and sit out there when the sun's going down in a t-shirt and shorts and like maybe play some Mario Golf. I will do that on the rarest of occasion. I did it even last summer, being completely honest. But outside of those one-off exceptions, I never play my Switch portably. Portable gaming is just no longer interesting to me personally. My Switch is a TV device. So when other companies come out with really cool, similar devices, like the Steam Deck and some of these others that we might talk about, it's like, okay, the product is cool and I see what it's doing and why people love it, but I don't need that device because it's not offering me anything that I need. I don't care about playing PC games or other non-Nintendo games portably, because I don't even play my Nintendo games portably on my Switch. It's just not for me. But here's the thing, you guys, and this is what I've been thinking about for a while, that made me want to talk about this and finally discuss this. And it's also, you know, I don't want to forget this part. I mentioned at the beginning that there was another video I saw that inspired this, and it's Review Tech USA, run by Rich. We don't know each other, but he's been one of my favorite channels for a long time, and he actually inspired me to start my own YouTube channel. He was one of the biggest inspirations back when I started this channel in 2013. That's how long I've been doing YouTube, and he's been doing it for even longer, to put it in perspective. And he's covered, because he likes PC stuff, and he covers weird dramatic news stories, but he also will cover like tech and gaming stuff that's interesting to him. And he's covered a lot of these Switch-like, hybrid-like devices that have been coming out over the past 4 or 5 years. And so I've been seeing some of these companies doing similar things. And to be fair, it wasn't until the Steam Deck came along that we saw an actual quality copy of the Switch concept that also is performing well and selling well, that people like. So there were a lot of failed attempts prior to that, but there still have been many attempts. And so Rich's video that I saw that made me want to finally make my own video about it was where he compares the newest version of a device called the Aya Neo, which I don't really know anything about other than it's also a hybrid portable device. And apparently the newest version of that is like just as good as the Steam Deck and just as good as the Switch. And so to me, when I track, you know, what he was talking about, he breaks down more of the tech side of things. And you guys know I do not know that, okay? I'm not a tech guy. I can't talk about the quality of components and chipsets and screens and whatever. It's just not for me, man. I'm just mostly here for the games for the most part. And the big moves in the industry. Those are the things I like talking about. I'm not smart enough to understand the tech, so I can't break it down like Rich does. But again, refocusing this, ultimately, we're finally seeing that some of these carbon copies of the Switch concept are now starting to come out and make some pretty good devices. And so does that potentially change Nintendo's thinking going into their future hardware? To my knowledge, I think the first time I saw a device come out after the Switch released that seemed to be copying it, I want to say was like an Alienware Switch clone device, maybe in like 2018 or 2019 or so. If I can find any pictures of these things, I'll show them. I think Alienware was the first company I saw try to copy that concept, and to all accounts that I remember, people said it just really wasn't very good. Then there was another version, an initial version of that Aya Neo device, if I could say it right, that Rich has talked about. Some other ones that I just don't even know what they are. And then, of course, the big one, which is the Steam Deck last year. And the Steam Deck was the first indication that companies can do what Nintendo did and be successful by making a real device that's actually quality. It technically it's way more powerful than the Switch. It can play better games because it's technically just a PC, and it can even run like Windows and Linux and do all these things, I'm assuming, without having to hack. You could probably hack a Switch to do those, I assume. People smarter than me would do. I don't know how to do that stuff, but I guess you could. But the Steam Deck being basically just a PC by default, and now the new Aya Neo and these other devices that are coming out, and beyond being able to play great games portably or plug into a monitor, they also can run like computer OSs. Like, this is such a game changer. And now that they're starting to be high quality and sell well like the Steam Deck, that to me becomes a little bit of a threat to Nintendo's hybrid dominance, right? I know it took me many minutes into the video to get to this specific point. Everything up until this point I think was important for me to talk about, but now I'm at really the main point I wanted to talk about in this entire long video that I'm blabbing about, which is that the more devices we see that are copying Nintendo's hybrid concept, that are quality built and selling well, the larger threat it is to Nintendo's hybrid dominance. That doesn't have to be a good or bad thing necessarily. All I'm talking about is if Nintendo sees this happening and if they consider it important when they think about making their new hardware. I think the thing that really I focus on when I've been thinking about this topic for the past year or so is the fact that we know Nintendo likes to stand out. They like to do things different, and they like to be the best at doing that different thing, right? And obviously, a lot of times their different things succeed. Like, the controller to the Nintendo 64 was a different weird idea. No one understood the need for that weird little joystick thing. But look at it. Now it's standard, and it changed the industry. The console only sold okay, but that controller's innovation was a huge gamble, and it changed gaming forever. Obviously, the Wii and its motion stuff was a huge hit, and it changed gaming. The Wii U and the gamepad, I love it, not a hit, so that was a miss. The Virtual Boy was a miss, but then we come back to the Switch, a huge hit. And effectively, we're seeing the proof that Nintendo's hybrid Switch did change gaming because we have one of the other biggest gaming companies on the planet, Valve, coming out with their own Switch copy device. And no matter which one you might think is better than the other, I'm not talking about which is better. I mean, I prefer the Switch just because I like Nintendo's games, and I'm not going to play a portable PC that doesn't also do other PC things that I wanted to do. But regardless of whichever one you prefer, now that other companies are willing to say, hey, we're going to do the same thing, it shows that Nintendo was ahead of the curve. They changed the industry in a positive way. But now, if their next device is another hybrid console, which I very much think is very possible, I don't think it's a lock. They might be prepared to surprise us all again. But if it is another hybrid, is there a chance that the fact that it's no longer unique for Nintendo to be the hybrid console maker, could that hurt the success or the business of that device or Nintendo as a company? Maybe. I think that, yeah, maybe there's a chance it does. I think it's safe to say that at bare minimum, Nintendo's probably at least thinking about it. They're paying attention to these other devices on the market. They are considering, if we keep doing the same thing, which a lot of people say, oh, all Nintendo has to do is keep making hybrid consoles. That's probably what they're going to do. It's so successful. Just make it backwards compatible and they'll be great forever. And I understand that thinking. I kind of agree with it, and it might even be correct. But at the same time, Nintendo might not see it that way. And when they can't be the only company dominating in the hybrid console market, I think there's a chance that if they didn't already have solid plans to make another hybrid that they can't back out of, I think there's a chance that one of the reasons they might release a new console that isn't a hybrid is simply because they saw that they weren't the only game in town anymore. And just making a better, more powerful Switch, I mean, it's definitely going to do well, but is it going to do as well as it could despite the Steam Deck being on the market? Maybe not. I mean, we're only guessing about a future that is uncertain and we don't know, right? So we're just speculating here. But I've been thinking about this, man. They're not the dominant hybrid guys anymore. So what is their incentive to keep doing the hybrid thing if that market share of hybrid hardware is going to be taken away from them with each new company that releases something quality? The Steam Deck was the first to make a big splash, not the first device, like I said, but the first to make a big splash. Now apparently this new Aya Neo thing is pretty good, so that might take more market share, and what's to stop other companies from continuing to do that? Or the next time Valve releases the Steam 2.0 or the Steam Deck 2.0, or, you know, the companies that make decent ones just iterating on them more often than Nintendo does, simply because they're PCs anyway, and we're used to that. This is all just a very long way for me to say that there's a chance that Nintendo has considered it, and if they don't make another Switch hybrid console, that might be one of the main reasons. It's because it's no longer their space to own like it was when the Switch first launched in 2017. Personally, I love Nintendo, I love the Switch as a device, and I really enjoyed the hybrid nature in the first probably 2 or 3 years. It definitely was cool, and I took advantage of it when it was new and fresh. Now it's not new and fresh to me anymore. Portable gaming, on the whole, isn't interesting to me, hence why I didn't even look into buying a Steam Deck. Like, I just don't care, even though I believe it's awesome. Everyone I know who has one loves it, so I'm sure it's great. It doesn't offer me anything, because I can play the games that the Switch can't play on my PS5 and Series X, and then all the Nintendo games I can play on my Switch, and I play them on my TV, right? So that's my perspective on that. So I love Nintendo. Whatever they do next, whether it's another hybrid, whether it's something different altogether, I know I'm going to like it and buy it, but I guarantee you that Nintendo has been thinking about how the market has changed around the Switch. And like I said, if they started plans for their next hybrid console way before the Steam Deck and Aya Neo and these other devices started coming out to change their plan, then maybe it's too late and Nintendo is going to release another one just because it's too late to back out of that plan for this next hardware. But maybe the following hardware is when they realize they have to move away from it. Or perhaps they didn't start planning the new hardware, or finalizing it, I should say, until we already knew that other devices were copying their idea. And so maybe they did have time to adjust their plan, and that could be the reason. Could be is the optimal phrase here. That could be the reason that their next device might not be a hybrid, although we're just going to have to wait and see.